Hello students. Now we'll be discussing the need hierarchy theory by Abraham Maslow. After studying this module, you shall be able to know about Abraham Maslow's view of the human nature, learn about the hierarchy of needs, identify the characteristics of the self-actualizing individuals, and analyze Maslow's theory of personality in comparison to others. Introduction. Abraham Maslow is considered to be one of the most important proponents of the humanistic psychology, or the third force as characterized in the American psychology. His theories on personality emerged as a reaction to the psychodynamic and behavioral models, the forces which dominated psychology over a long period of time, and portrayed a very pessimistic and negative view of human beings. His theories majorly aim at representing the human strengths, aspirations, and motivation to achieve self-actualization. In contrast to the earlier theories, Maslow's theories took a more positive view of human beings. He saw them to be innately good, active, capable and creative beings who have a free will and an urge to grow, develop and unfold their inner potentials. Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs explains the human nature by arranging the various needs in a hierarchical manner, with self-actualization at the top of the pyramid. These two are the landmark aspects of his theory. Maslow determined that his approach to personality would assess the best representatives of human species. Thus, Maslow's theories are neither developed from case studies in clinical settings, nor have they emerged from the experiments in laboratory, but from the research on the creative, self-sufficient, autonomous, contented, and happy adults. Thus, Maslow aimed to make psychology a discipline which focuses upon human strengths than weaknesses, virtues than sins, and steps to achieve happiness than avoid pain. He portrayed a brighter and better picture of human beings. Maslow's assumption about human nature. Maslow's assumption about human nature is very positive. He strongly believes that human beings are not always driven by their instinctual or unconscious motives and desire, nor are they puppets in the hand of the environment over which the experiences are engraved. In contrast to all these assumptions about human nature, he propagated the idea of uniqueness of individual. He describes them as creative, rational and active beings who want to grow, develop and prosper in their lives. They always strive for excellence and try to unfold their inner potentials to reach their goals. Maslow also wrote, "All evidence that we have indicate that it is reasonable to assume in practically every human being and certainly in almost every newborn baby that there is an active will toward health, an important impulse towards growth or towards the actualization of human potentials." Most important assumption made by Maslow was that people are not inherently evil, bad or antisocial. They become miserable and neurotic because of the social pathology. Here, the society can be viewed as a pathogen, imposing rules and regulations, curbing the individual's ability to make a choice or free will. It tries to hamper their personal growth and disturbs their course of self-actualization, which causes the frustration, violence, or destructive behavior among humans. Thus, according to Maslow, neurosis can be interpreted as the failure of personal growth. Thus, even though we all have an impulse to reach the highest need of self-actualization, however, there are very few who have been able to satisfy this need. According to Maslow, this also depends on the relationship between the environment and human. A society which allows the individual to explore and make their own choice and use their free will to determine what is right and wrong instead of referring to the moral standard set by the society, then it is a good and a healthy society, as it provides a supporting and a permissive environment which guides and favors the individual needs to self-actualize. However, most societies attempt to control the individual functioning and do not give them the freedom to practice their free will or to explore their creativity. As a result of such restrictions, people turn out to dull and conventional who usually abide by law and strict rules. Hierarchy of needs. Maslow proposed a theory of human motivation based on a hierarchy of needs. It is a hierarchy that represents various human needs starting from the lowest needs, which are dominant and triggered by some deficit in the person, to the higher needs, which entail personal growth and achievement of one's goals. As the lower needs get satisfied, they give way to emergence of new higher needs. According to Maslow, these needs are instinctoid. This means that the urges are inherited, but their expression is learnt later through intrinsically proper satisfiers. These needs are arranged from the strongest to the weakest. The lower needs must be partially satisfied before the higher needs can be fulfilled. For example, a thirsty person will be more preoccupied with his physiological need rather than filling his esteem needs. Also, one need tends to dominate the personality at a given time. For instance, successful people are more motivated by their self-actualization needs rather than their safety needs. But this depends on the degree to which the other needs have been satisfied. Also, the order of the needs may change. For example, if an individual loses his job, his physiological and safety needs again become predominant, as they are necessary for his survival. Characteristics of these needs can be described as follows. Lower needs are more dominant than the higher needs. Different needs appear at different times of life. Physiological and safety needs first emerge in infancy and childhood. Love and belongingness needs emerge in adolescence. Esteem needs emerge in young adulthood, and self-actualization needs may appear only after midlife. Lower needs trigger deficiency motivation, as they entail from a lack in the person, while the higher needs entail growth motivation. Satisfaction of needs leads to psychological contentment, happiness, and fulfillment. Higher needs require more permissive external environment than the lower needs. For example, the gratification of self-actualization needs may require greater freedom of expression than the belongingness needs. A preceding need in the hierarchy may only be partially satisfied when the next need emerges and becomes dominant. Also, hierarchy becomes important. Maslow proposed a declining percentage of satisfaction for each need. Offering a hypothetical example, he described a person who has satisfied 85% of the physiological needs, 70% of the safety needs, 50% of the belongingness and love needs, 40% of the esteem needs, and 10% of the self-actualization need. The lowest level needs in the hierarchy are the physiological needs. They include hunger, thirst, and other biological drives. These are most basic needs found in any organism. The more these needs are unsatisfied, the more they dominate a person's life goals. And as a result of other needs are relegated to the background. For example, a person wandering in the desert for several days obviously would be more concerned with the hunger and thirst needs than his other needs as a result of dominance of these biological needs that are important for his survival. The next set of needs that emerge are the safety needs. These include stability, security, dependency, protection, and freedom from fear. These needs first emerge in infancy and childhood, when the child seeks his primary caregiver's protection and potential threats in the environment. In adulthood, these needs are primarily satisfied by living in a society where certain rules and regulations ensure the safety of the individuals in the form of strict laws and moral codes. These needs are more dominant in individuals who show neurotic tendencies or are in the middle of some natural or social crisis. The third set of needs is the love and belongingness needs. These primarily relate to our innate need to have deep and affectionate relations with people in general as a community and in particular as a friend and family. The thwarting of these needs can result in maladjustment and severe pathology. The fourth set of needs is the esteem needs. They represent esteem needs of the self and esteem from the others. It includes the desires of strength, achievement, mastery, and competence, as well as respect from others, fame, dominance, status, attention, and dignity. In addition to our cognitive needs, we have some cognitive needs, which are related to our desire to know and understand well. We also have aesthetic needs, which relate to our desires for beauty, balance, form, simplicity, richness, etc. These needs were added later to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The highest level of needs is the need for self-actualization. Once the 4 of the basic deficiency needs have been satisfied, a desire to become more and more what one idiosyncratically is, to become everything that one is capable of becoming, arises. This means that when the individual reaches his highest potential, he is said to be self-actualized. Maslow believed that humans have potentialities for love, joy, and to do creative work. He severely criticized the negative viewpoint of Freud and Watson about human nature. For him, the first 3 needs are commonly found in both humans and animals. An individual's sole concern with these needs reduces him to the level of animals. But the real journey of the life begins with the pursuit of the esteem and self-actualization needs. Self-actualizers. Maslow did extensive study of self-actualizing individuals. According to him, psychologists have focused more on individuals who are neurotic and crippled. Thus, the focus of psychology as a field has been on what is wrong with the individuals, rather than what they are actually capable of doing. He proposes that it is imperative for psychologists to study people who have realized their inner potentialities in order to develop a more comprehensive and complete science of human mind. Some of the people Maslow studied included Lincoln, Jefferson, Walt Whitman, and Beethoven. He tried to look for the personality characteristics of these individuals that made them different from ordinary people. According to Maslow, these individuals were motivated by intrinsic values rather than from a deficiency or lack of something external. Moreover, these individuals are more concerned about the intrinsic growth of what is already present within them. They differ from the ordinary individuals in terms of their basic motivation. He called this kind of motivation as the meta-motivation or the B motivation. Here, the word meta means beyond or after, referring to the fact that this kind of motivation is beyond the traditional conceptualization of motivation in psychology. A self-actualized individual is not striving for a particular goal, but is said to be developing from within. Also, he does not seek to mitigate the tension in the environment or satisfy a deficiency. Rather, he seeks to increase the tension in order to experience more stimulation and challenge. In a sense, they are unmotivated by their external environment. Maslow also proposed the concept of meta-needs, which include states of being like goodness, uniqueness, and perfection. When these needs are not satisfied, it can lead to metapathology, which prevents the self-actualizers from expressing, using, and fulfilling their inner potential. Maslow listed the following distinguishing features of these individuals. They are reality-oriented. In other words, they perceive their environment very objectively and without any preconceived notions and biased judgments. They accept themselves and the people around them as they are. They accept their strengths and weaknesses and those of other people. They do not try to change their self-image by distorting it or feeling guilty for their feelings. They are very spontaneous. Their behavior is very open, direct, and natural. They rarely hide their true emotions and thoughts and try to satisfy others. They may do so only to avoid hurting others. Otherwise, they behave in accordance to their own principles and what they feel is right. They feel secure enough to be themselves. They undertake a task to satisfy their intrinsic meta-needs rather than for rewards like money, power, status, or respect from others. They have a sense of commitment and dedication, which lies at core of self-actualizing behavior. They find pleasure and satisfaction in their hard work. They are very detached and private individuals. They can experience solitude in a way which is not harmful for them. They do not crave for any social support as they are independent individuals. They appreciate people and things in a novel way. They tend to approach even the simplest of the things with awe and wonder. They are able to appreciate uniqueness and beauty of an object, which may appear dull to ordinary individuals. Most of them have had some kind of spiritual experience, which may or may not be religious in nature. These are called peak experiences. The self becomes powerful, decisive, and confident during these experiences. They are very kind individuals whose lives are centered around the cause of the humanity. They have strong desire to help others. Their intimate relationships might be few, but they have a deep emotional nature rather than being superficial. They only choose individuals as friends who have same personal values and characteristics as their own. They hold very democratic values and attitudes. They easily accept and tolerate the behavior and personalities of other people. They have zest to learn more and readily accept the teachings of those who are capable to teach them. For them, individuals are more important than their religions, racial or social background. They do not hold any prejudices. They function as autonomous and independent individuals who like to depend on themselves for their satisfactions. Their independence may make them appear aloof, but they tend to be very friendly and warm. They do not confuse acts with the results. For them, consequences of an act are not more important than the task itself. They, in fact, pursue a task for the sheer satisfaction and contentment they feel while doing it, rather than for the rewards that may come after completing the task. Their sense of humor is derived from their philosophical nature and is harmless. They are highly creative. They exhibit high level of originality and novelty in their work as well as in their lives. They are flexible in the sense that they are willing to learn from their mistakes. They are nonconformists who tend to go against the conventional ideas and values. They feel free to resist any kind of social pressure to think of, act in certain way. They may not openly challenge cultural or social norms, but are governed by their own principles rather than the structure of the society. They rise above the problem to solve it rather than coping with it. They do not try to change their environment or strive to mitigate their tension. Rather, they try to seek newer challenges to experience motivation. Evaluative comments, criticisms and controversies. There is no denying the fact that Maslow was an articulate thinker who became one of the leaders of the humanistic psychology. However, his version of the organismic theory has its own flaws. First, his theory has been criticized for being more of an inspirational work than a proper scientific theory. He draws from what is still hypothetical, ideological, and theoretical. Secondly, little or no evidence has been found for the hierarchy in which Maslow describes the human needs. Thirdly, Hofstede has criticized the hierarchy of needs on its failure to illustrate the differences in needs of those raised in the collectivistic societies, where belongingness needs tend to outweigh the self-esteem needs, and those raised in the individualistic cultures, where individual needs are more predominant than the community needs. Fourthly, the meaning of the term self-actualization, which means reaching the highest potential, may change from one individual to another, who have their own perception of what is the criteria for the best person that one may be striving to become, for oneself and the others. Lastly, the position of sex as a physiological need along with hunger and thirst in the hierarchy has been criticized, because the hierarchy ignores the social, familial, and emotional aspects related to sex. Contributions. In spite of the aforementioned criticisms, Maslow's theory still attracts a large number of psychologists because it deals with vital and contemporary human concerns. The major contribution of this theory about personality is that psychology as a field started focusing on values, individuality, conscience, purpose, ethics, and higher reaches of the human nature. Maslow wanted to introduce a humanistic science that complemented the mechanistic science about the human nature. He severely criticized the mechanical way in which the behaviorism and psychoanalysis defined and explained the human behavior. Another major contribution of his theory is that for the first time, psychology focused on healthy people rather than the sick ones. For him, the study of the wholeness and unity of healthy people gave the real picture of human personality. Summary: Maslow introduced one of the most influential humanistic theories about human personality. His theory had three distinct features: his assumptions about human nature, his hierarchy of needs, and his study of self-actualizers. He drew upon his investigations of healthy and creative persons to arrive at certain formulations regarding personality. He criticized psychology for its pessimistic and negative outlook about human nature. Rather, he introduced a more positive viewpoint that saw the human potential and individual happiness and pleasure. According to him, all humans are inherently good and their inner nature is very delicate and subtle. It is easily shaped by habits, cultural values, and attitudes towards it. It can be tamed by training and socialization. He further explained that all humans have an innate tendency to realize their inner potential through love, joy, and doing creative work. He also proposed a hierarchy of needs. There are 5 major needs: physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. The lowest needs are the more dominant than the higher needs. As the lower needs get fulfilled, they give way to the higher needs. The lower needs rise from a deficit in the person, and the higher needs rise from the person's striving after goals and personal growth. He also did extensive study on self-actualizing individuals who have reached their inner potential. Their development proceeds from within rather than from without. They are independent, spontaneous, realistically oriented, empathizing, and creative people whose lives are often centered around the mankind.